Hi guys, welcome back to our channel where we're talking about the custom engagement rings, very special rings, the one that made for someone specifically, not just someone in general. That's what we do over here. And this video was inspired by a client of mine for whom we're making custom engagement ring right now, 3-carat lab diamond one with a very complex halo design. As probably few of you start researching things about the lab stones and engagement rings in general, went to YouTube, watched a couple of TikToks videos, maybe even asked a couple of questions on Reddit, and realized then deeper he goes, the more question he has. And throughout our conversation, while we were searching for the stones, finalizing designs, doing a few other things, he asked me a very good question that I haven't covered before, and I decided to make a video out of it. So without any further ado, let's go through them. First question, and it's a very important one, and you might be surprised that not many people actually ask in that form. What makes one diamond sparkle more than the other? And some people think it's about the clarity, it's about the inclusions or color or the shape or anything like that. In fact, it's all about the cut quality. Basically, the mathematical structure of the diamond itself. You see, when diamond is cut well, the light goes through the surface and bounces from the facet of the stones and goes back through the surface, meeting the new light, which creates the spark in an ideal situation. If your diamond doesn't cut properly, the light is going to go into the stone itself and exit either through the side or somewhere else. So it's not going to spark the way you want it. So what are you going to have at the end? You're going to have pretty lifeless, even dead stone. It's not going to look good. So yes, sparkle is engineered and it comes with precision. So one of the first things you need to look for is to look for the cut. And the second question from our client came from the first one. As I said, the more you learn, the more questions you have. Because I sent him few examples of his future stone, and we're not just sending the huge list of the stones to our client because it's way too overwhelming. We pre-select them and then only send few of the best ones. And when he opened those certificates, he very quickly realized there is no 4 C's, there is only 3 C's. And fancy cuts is basically everything rather than the round, doesn't have the grading for the cut itself. Instead, you need to be looking at the proportion. You need to look at the table percentage proportion, which should be between 58 and 64%. And you need to look at the depth percentage, which should be about 60 to 65% in that range. Of course, you also need to look for the symmetry and polishing. This one has to be excellent or very good, no lower than that. And you also need to look for the crown angles as well. What is going to happen if those proportions not where they should be? You can have a couple of problems. You can have a very shallow stone. So on the good side, you're going to have pretty good physical size, very good visible size of the table of the stone, but it's going to be pretty dead and glassy looking stone. It's not going to spark. It's not going to have this brilliance of the diamond. If you're going to choose the deep cut and on the opposite side, you're going to have much more problems than that. First of all, this stone is going to be dark. It's going to be completely lifeless whatsoever. Second, it's going to be small because yes, you're going to have the same carat weight, but all of that weight is going to go to the bottom of the stone and the surface of the stone is going to be pretty small. So when you're looking for the fancy diamond, pay attention to the table and the depth percentages. That's one of the most important characteristics, not the color, not the clarity, those one, because if those are not right, your stone is literally going to be dead and looks like a glass. The next question that we received was absolutely logical. He asked, why do 2 3-carat diamond look completely different in size? And that's a very good observation because Many people think that when they're looking at the 3 carat diamonds, they all going to be the same in size, and that's what is matter. When you're going to put it on the setting and going to look on the hand, that's what matter, not the weight. The size of it is matter. And the carat refer to the weight of the stone. That's how we measure it. We put the stone on a scale and we see how many carat it weighs. And out of the stones that we sent it to him, there was one stone that was 10.5 millimeter long and the other one was 9.9 millimeter long. They were still in the range of the perfect table and depth percentage, but those subtle difference with 6 to 8% or so gives you also the difference in size of the stone itself. So pay very careful attention to that. When you compare in the stones, not only compare the weight of the stone itself, but also the physical size next to it. Another great question my client asked is what makes one 3 carat stone more impressive, more special than the other, although on paper they look quite similar. The color is about the same, the characteristic is about the same. I would say it's in the small subtle differences in their combination. Let's say one stone is a little bit longer than the other. The color of it just slightly tiny bit better than the other. It's a little bit more clear, the polishing is a little bit better. And those things separately doesn't make that much of a difference. But when you combine them in one stones, you do start to feel it. And when you comparing it back to back, you do see the difference. That is important when you choosing the stone. And quite often there is going to be a slight price difference between the stones, and you need to choose for yourself whether you want to pay that extra dollar for this extra mile or you're happy with the stone that you're happy with. Don't forget that when you choosing the stone, you comparing many stones one next to another, you putting them close to each other, you're trying to see the subtle differences. Also, for a second, try to look at it separately without any other comparison. Are you happy with it? And if you are, maybe it doesn't worth pay the difference. There was also a lot of questions about the certification in our conversation. And I do have the separate video where I'm talking through the different types of certificates. I'm gonna link it right over here. And you definitely want to check it out because over there I'm also talking about the fake certificates, which are quite common, believe it or not. But in this specific case, he was just trying to understand what he can see and what he can read in the certificate itself. Because yes, the photo and the videos are important, but keep in mind that you might be receiving the stones, the videos and the photos of the stone from the different dealers. They're going to be shot under the different lighting situation, whether with artificial light or under the sunlight and things like that. As much as it's good to look at those photos and videos, usually it's a better idea to look at the numbers itself on the certification. And the certification, first of all, is going to tell you that you're looking at the lab diamond. You're not looking at the moissanite or anything like that. Of course, it's going to verify the carat weight, color and clarity, dimension, whether it's treated or enhanced in some way or anything like that. Also, it's going to cover the cut grading, one of the most important characteristics, as I mentioned previously. Or in the case of the fancy diamonds, it's going to cover the table and the depth percentage, as well as the symmetry and polishing. Next question. Do I need to have the certificate if I'm not planning on reselling the stone? You definitely should have it. First of all, for the security reasons. You want to make sure that you're paying for what you're paying for. You're not paying for the piece of glass or anything like that. You're paying for the lab diamond. If you're not a gemologist and you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to be able to see the difference between the modern moissanite and the lab diamond on the first glance. So you definitely want to have the certificate. Also, it's going to confirm all of your characteristics that I mentioned previously, which is very important. You definitely want to know what you're paying for. And yes, your seller might tell you everything about this diamond, list the characteristic and everything, but it's also good to have the third-party opinion, the opinion of the gemologist on that specific stone with all of those characteristics. The second reason is insurance. It's not a secret that an engagement ring is quite an expensive thing, and you might want to insure it in case you're gonna lose it somewhere on the beach or something like that is going to happen. So when you go to the insurance company, they're gonna ask you for the appraisal, and the appraisal office is going to ask you for the certificate and the receipt from the jeweler. So you definitely need that. And the third reason, and I think it's very important reason, it feels more official with the certificate. Or as my client said, and I'm quoting, "I want her to know it's real." I think it's a very valid reason. It's a very important reason, probably more important than the previous one if you ask me. Another question, and it's actually very common, what is the risk of buying the diamond without certificate? And honestly, it's just too many risks out there. First of all, why is this stone doesn't have the certificate? I understand when it doesn't have it under half a carat, let's say, totally makes sense over here because the stone by itself will be inexpensive. And in some cases, when we were making the engagement rings with the stones like 0.5 or even smaller on a very tight budget, every $100 matter, and it makes sense to buy the stone without the certificate. But if the stone bigger than that, let's say 1 carat or 2 carat or so on, and it doesn't have the certificate, it's just too many risks out there. There should be a reason why it doesn't have it, because for the seller, it doesn't make sense as well. Why would I sell the stone like that? It's going to be cheaper, it's going to be harder to sell. I would rather go to IGI, send them the stone, pay for the certification, include that certification into the cost of the stone and sell it. I'm gonna sell it faster, much more secure, and it's much less problems. So follow that logic and do not put yourself into the position where you can get into the troubles buying the piece of glass. Just don't do it, in my opinion. That was all the question for this video. If you have more, definitely check out our video guide. There's more than 30 hours of valuable information there. Just click the link below in the description and you will see it. It's very, very good. And if you're still not going to find the answer, feel free to book the consultation with me and I'll be happy to help you with your very special engagement ring. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.